Welcome back, everyone, to Pirate Talk Radio. This is episode 129, and I'm glad that you're spending some time to listen to my thoughts and feelings on Sea of Thieves, and I appreciate you tuning in each and every week very, very much. Please make sure that you are sharing this podcast with your friends and other folks who may enjoy Sea of Thieves. Also, if you haven't done so already, head over to youtube.com/@Pirate Talk Radio and click that subscribe button. The podcast does go up there along with all podcasting apps. And that is also where you can catch the live stream. If you prefer, though, watching Twitch, you can catch my live streams at twitch.tv/Davrim if you would prefer to watch there. So what's been going on this past week? Well, last 2 weeks, pretty much since the last episode, things have been crazy with work. I know you've been hearing me talk about work for a while now. Well, things in the company that I work for are not going too well. And over the past 2 weeks, we have lost, unfortunately, a lot of employees due to layoffs. I am safe right now. As of the recording of this podcast, I do still have a job, so that is a large weight off my shoulder, but unfortunately, as I left the office on Friday, it was, well, this is round number one we ended round number one, but still more could come. And with the company doing quite poorly in the retail world, obviously I could be affected. I'm hoping not, but I'm keeping my ear to the ground to make sure that I'm not impacted, because there was a period of time, I think prior to this podcast actually, that I was unemployed for almost a year, and it really affected me both health-wise. Had a health scare during that time. Didn't have insurance, obviously. It took me many, many years to pay off that medical debt. So I'm, the nerves and the anxiety is very high right now. And I'm just hoping that I can stay employed. And if something were to happen with the company that I'm working for, find a job quickly. I have a lot of great friends and an amazing family. So I know I will be okay. It's just, things are a little on edge, and it's been kind of rough. And on top of all that, I've got a big show coming up, a percussion ensemble that I have done the lighting for since 2005. It's a big production. Takes many hours of my time that I volunteer to give back to my hometown community. So streams will be very minimal, probably until the second week of May. We did a stream this last weekend. It was a lot of fun. Got a lot of gold. And that'll probably be the last stream for a little while, as the next couple weeks I'll be setting up that show, programming the show, rehearsing with the group, and then performing that concert. Now, if you are currently a patron, thank you, and we'll go over and honor your amazing contributions here in a moment. But if you are if you would like to join the Patreon, patreon.com/DavrimTV, I will try my best to post some videos, some pictures of the setup of the concert. And I might even try, I've never done this before, but I know there's a live streaming feature on Patreon. I may try to live stream the concert. Now, I know many of you who are out there listening are not in the United States, and this concert usually starts 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which would be butt crack in the morning for you all. So I'm hoping that when you do a live stream on Patreon that it saves there. But it's a really nice concert. It's a high school group, but don't be fooled when I say it's a high school group. They have traveled all over the world and all over the United States performing for big conferences, government officials, and things like that. It's an amazing group. I was part of that group back in high school. But I have done their lighting since. So I will be trying to put some stuff out aside from the podcast just to keep you guys informed of what's going on and allow you to have a little behind the scenes look at what I am doing. But again, I'm going to make sure that's exclusive to patrons, because you guys are amazing and you guys continue to support me. So I want to make sure you guys have some behind the scenes and get some additional bang for your buck, if you will. But let's talk about those wonderful and amazing people people that continue month after month to throw their money at me, their hard-earned money at me. We have Skamelt666, Elcute, I Geffis, James, Big Bad Pad, and Regis Stella. Again, from the bottom of my heart, folks, thank you so much for your ongoing support. I know several of you also subscribe to the Twitch, so you kind of double dip there as far as throwing money my way, and I very much appreciate everything that you do. Make sure you're always taking care of yourselves and your family first. I'm okay. I'm good. I appreciate all the wonderful support that you guys give, but just make sure you're taking care of yourself before you're throwing money at me. So, with the kind of bummed out conversation of my job behind us, let's dive into Sea of Thieves, because Sea of Thieves has a big thing coming. For those of you who maybe have lived under a rock recently, Sea of Thieves is coming to PlayStation 5, right? I'm sure many folks who are listening to me right now, they're probably not PlayStation 5 players that have never played Sea of Thieves, but maybe we're starting to get some of that PlayStation 5 hype in the old podcast. But it's coming. In fact, as of this recording, it's less than 30 days away. And there's a lot of things that these PlayStation 5 players are going to experience when they first get into the Sea of Thieves, both positive and negative. And so I want to talk today about what are my top things that players are going to experience that are good, and how they should experience them. And then I also want to talk about the top things that I believe that Rare desperately needs to make sure happens before the go live of PlayStation 5 at the end of April. So let's dive into that. So let's talk about things that these players should take a look at and interact with to really immerse themselves in Sea of Thieves and understand what has gone on in this game for the past 6 years. Now, some things they can't experience anymore, unfortunately. They were limited time events. They were limited time adventures. Some of I believe the first mystery with DeMarco is still in the game that you can still participate in, and kind of learn that kind of stuff, but you're going to have to look it up. Obviously, I don't think a new player is going to, figure that out, but that might even be removed from the game. I haven't went and checked, to see if those things are still there for a very long time. Last time I checked a few months ago, they were, but they could have been patched out by now. But what I would tell new players coming into Sea of Thieves, and existing players who may not have done this yet, start with the Tall Tales. Now, I understand that at this point, the Tall Tales have got to a point where you can do them in any particular order you want. And I understand that you don't have to go in the actual chronological order. What I will tell you is you should, at least one time, play through all of the story in chronological order. So you get a good idea of the timeline. You get a good idea of the history of this game. Now, when I say chronological order, don't look in the Tall Tales section of your voyages. It starts with the maiden voyage. Technically, you should play through the maiden voyage. There's some good gold and things like that you can get in there. You understand the basics for returning players. They already understand the basics of sails and repairing the ship, but you get a good idea you get to introduce to the pirate lord, and you get the basics. But there is some story in the maiden voyage that you can learn. You can learn about the Kraken and ghost ships. And you get to learn about a lot of different things about the game. Basic things, small things, just little tidbits in the maiden voyage. And then start working on the Shores of Gold. Now, again, Shores of Gold is its own tall tale that you can do out of order now. But originally, the Shores of Gold was the final tall tale in a series of tall tales, which started, and I believe it was the very first one was The Shroud Breaker, I think, is the first one. And if you go into the game and you're checking out these particular areas of Tall Tale, you can actually go in and see these in order in the game. And what that means is you should do them in order of the Sea of Thieves Tall Tales first, meaning the Shores of Gold series, which starts with the Shroud Breaker, has the Art of the Trickster, has all of those, and ends eventually with Shores of Gold. Then you should move on to the Heart of Fire series, which starts with Seabound Soul and ends with Heart of Fire. Not only are you going to collect great cosmetics, you do have to complete some of those 3 times, some of those 5 times still, but there are checkpoints. You can come back to them later, or use the checkpoints to get your final piece each time. But that tells you the story of Sea of Thieves up until the time of Pirates of the Caribbean. And why that's important. There are characters in Pirates of the Caribbean that you don't know who they are, and you don't get really good background information on why those particular characters are important. And that to me is a disservice to the player base. And I understand the change to allow you to play these Tall Tales in any order you want. The game has been around for a very long time. 6 years. It's a long time. In the ideas of Rare, if you're going to do it, it's already been done, right? It's already been done. And that's probably true for most players. However, what I will say is it is not true for new players. This might be the very first time, it probably is the very first time that they have set sail in the Sea of Thieves. And giving them free reign to do whatever they want is great. But when you want to tell a story, you don't tell them, hey, pick up this book, open it to whatever chapter you want, and begin reading there, because it's confusing. It doesn't make sense, and it's not a good experience. In my opinion, a better way of handling this would have been you have to play through the Tall Tales in order, like it was meant to be, and once you have completed them all, then you can go back your second, your third time, however many times you want then, and do them in any order, like it used to be. But that first playthrough should be forced in order. And I know people don't like hearing things forced in video games and not having that choice. But when you're talking about a story, you don't just... I have a book sitting here next to me that I plan on reading very soon, called The Republic of Pirates. I love pirate history, but you don't just pick up this book and you go, okay, I'm going to start here on, let's see. I'm going to start at page 226, begging pardon. And start there. What about all this? What about the 200 and almost 30 pages that you have missed that is telling you a story? It's just not a good approach when you're a game that has a rich story like Sea of Thieves does. Then once you complete, Seabound Soul, once you've completed Heart of Fire, now you're ready for the Pirates of the Caribbean. And now, Pirates of the Caribbean or Monkey Island, those can be done in either one order, I believe, because I'm thinking back and I don't remember any references in Monkey Island that reference Pirates of the Caribbean, and I know Pirates of the Caribbean didn't reference Monkey Island. They're kind of independent, right? Monkey Island, they talk about, obviously, LeChuck is the big bad guy. They do reference Flameheart and they reference the Pirate Lord in there. There are going to be some gaps for those new players because they didn't get to enjoy the adventure where they found the evil Pirate Lord who was just LeChuck in disguise. So there are some dark gray areas in that players might be a little bit confused of what the hell's going on because they didn't get to participate in those adventures. However, in this, and they will still get the story that's being told, and a story that's leading to what is happening in our world right now. And then of course the Pirates of the Caribbean, you get Rose, and you get George, and you get Pendragon, and you get Jack, and you get all these characters and faces that we're still seeing in the seas today. You've got Tasha's dad, who is the barkeep, and who is now, I believe, next to Tasha in the inn, and things like that. You get all of that backstory prior to going into Pirates of the Caribbean. You get to Pirates of the Caribbean, and you're not very confused in the entire situation, right? So again, that's the big thing that I always tell people is I get that, it hurts and it's hard for me to understand why on earth Sea of Thieves made this change, right? Because if you look in the game and you open it up, as you can see on the YouTube video right now, it does start with the Maiden Voyage, but then it goes to Monkey Island 1, 2, and 3. Then it goes to Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then it gets to the Shroud Breaker and their original story. And I'm sure there was probably some sort of deal with Disney and deal with Lucasfilms that they wanted theirs to be upfront. But again, even the UI, when you're looking at this, does not put you in a place where you're learning the story. But I really think players need to start with this: Shroud Breaker, Cursed Rogue, Legendary Storyteller, Stars of a Thief, Wild Rose, Art of the Trickster, The Fate and the Revenge of the Morning Star, ending with the Shores of Gold, and learning who the Gold Hoarder is, because he comes back in Pirates of the Caribbean. And you have no idea who this guy is and why he's important. You don't know who these people are, but you're supposed to feel something about them. But if you haven't played through the first 9, you're not going to feel anything about them. And then moving on to Seabound Soul with Pendragon and understanding his importance into the game, and finishing with Heart of Fire with Stitcher Jim and Flameheart. You then understand the big bad in Sea of Thieves before you go back and you do Monkey Island and learn the LeChuck, and the Flameheart references there, and Pirates of the Caribbean with the Captain, which we still don't know who that is, and understanding where all these references come from. So if you do have a friend who's planning on playing Sea of Thieves for the first time, and you are encouraging them to get in there and play them, tell them to not pay attention to how the order is in the actual game. Maiden Voyage, 9 Tales to Shores of Gold, Heart of Fire, Seabound Soul, and then let them choose if they want to do Pirates of the Caribbean or Monkey Island, and do them in order, because that is very, very important. The other thing that is nice about Sea of Thieves right now is if you check your map, they've had this for a while, and you can actually see where these start. But for new players, the Shroud Breaker is at every single inn in the back corner, as we well know, next to the Mysterious Stranger. But these are the kind of things that these are the kind of things that new players aren't necessarily going to know right off the bat. And though Sea of Thieves has gotten much better at how they do things inside of the game and teaching you and guiding you, even though they're doing a better job of that, there is still a very long way for them to go. And I don't think any of that is going to be resolved before PlayStation comes out, because they've had this game going for 6 years, and they've always struggled because they've always wanted it to be a way for you to figure out what to do, where to go, and they don't want to limit you. And I like that about this game. It is something I like about this game, but for a new player, I remember when I was a new player, 5.5 years ago, I remember that. And I remember those first couple months of playing, just feeling so lost and not sure what to do, just going out and killing skeletons and just having a good old time, out there in the world. And then eventually figuring out Tall Tales, and eventually figuring out what the best way to do things is, and learning constantly. So yes, the game has a long way to go on that level, but at the same regards, I think people are going to have fun. I just wish they would have done a better job of prepping for the release on PlayStation 5 by making sure players play through the content as far as the storyline in a particular fashion. I know there's some people out there who have no care in the world about storyline. Then that's absolutely fine. Just go in, kill your skeletons, do your hourglass, kill your players, have a blast. But if you care anything about the game and the lore behind the game, play it in order, right? Play it in order. So that's kind of my biggest thing that I think they really need to focus on. And again, we're past the time they can, but new players, that's what they need to focus on. The next thing that new players should really focus on, and as returning players or existing players, that you should make sure you encourage players. If you sink, it's not a big deal. It's not game over. You respawn and you go at it again. So many people out there get so caught up on sinking. And sure, there is a competitive piece of me that every time I sink, I kind of get pissed off. And I look in, I'm like, well, what could I have done better? What did they do that was cheaty? Or what did they do? Or what did the game do? You know? But it's still, you sink and you go back at it. Yeah, it sucks when you've got a lot of loot on board and you sink. It does. There's no question about it. But gold is an infinite resource in Sea of Thieves. And there will always be more gold for you to get. There will always be more skeletons to kill. There will always be more chests to dig up. Just get back out there, use the diving system, go to a different server if you feel like there is a player who is just dominating the server you're on and you want it to be a little bit nicer as far as someone who's maybe around your skill level or someone who's also new. But when a returning player or a veteran player, make sure, though I have no problem sinking whoever you want to sink out there on the seas, it is a pirate game after all. Just make sure, you're not toxic and you're making sure that you are encouraging the players to keep playing. You're encouraging the players, you're going to respawn and you just go back out there and go at it again, right? And then obviously don't hunt them down over and over again because that's pretty shitty. And if they're doing a tall tale, I still have a rule. Don't sink tall tailers. I know it's difficult to know if they're tall tailers, but if you go for the board and they have a tall tail up, just bucket them, repair their ship, and move on. That's what I try to do. The next thing that I think will help, there's been some talk and some announcements revolving around the PlayStation release, and one of them is that there's going to be PS5 only servers. Now, I think this is both good and bad. I think having the ability for PlayStation players to have their own space as they learn the game, as they get immersed in the game, and as they fall in love with the game like the rest of us. But my concern is, now you have two different servers for console. You have an Xbox only server and you have a PlayStation 5 only server. I think what they could have done is just did console only servers. Now, what does that mean? It could happen to be a bad thing as well because the Xbox players have had this game for 6 years and PlayStation players are new. So I can see Rare's approach in giving PlayStation 5 players their own servers if they choose to opt into that at the start. Now I think over time they should roll the PlayStation 5 only servers and the Xbox only servers together to make sure they have a healthy population, because you don't want the situation where your console only player base is getting divided into two separate server bases, and it's weak, where you could strengthen that server base and that population base by combining them. I think it's a good way to start, giving them that dedicated server space. Hopefully those servers are stable and they can learn, right? Obviously they have safer seas if they want to learn that way, but if they just want to dive into high seas, which I highly encourage, at least they'll only be against other PS5 players. Now, yes, there are players out there who have been playing this game since the beginning that probably has a PS5 and will probably want to play it a little bit on their PS5. And so you're going to run into veteran players, but not as much if you were forcing them in with Xbox. So I think this is a good approach in the start, but I think they should have a plan in order to roll into a console only environment, not a Xbox only and a PlayStation only environment. I think that's really important for them to make sure the population base and the player base is healthy so the players can constantly be seeing new people and they can constantly be part of a community, right? Because it's no fun. Sea of Thieves is not fun when you sail around for hours upon hours and you have just you, right? There are some days that's what you want, but let's be honest. When the seas feel dead, the game feels bad. Another announcement that they made that I think is being taken very negatively amongst players, and that is with the exclusive cosmetics coming to the PS5. And that is a reskinned Obsidian set and reskinned Vanguard sails, Brave Vanguard sails. Now, I've mentioned on the podcast a couple times that if anyone figures out how to get those on their Xbox to let me know. No one's reached out, and the reason for that is Rare has made an announcement now in official capacity that those cosmetics will be locked down and exclusive to only PS5. And when I say that, I don't mean if you get it on PS5, it links to your Microsoft account, and then if you play on PC or you play on Xbox, that you will then have access to it. No. This exclusive means you will only have access to those cosmetics in your particular boxes if you are playing on a PlayStation 5. This is the first time they have ever done that. Let's talk about why players are irritated about that and why I understand, because I really want those weapons, but I know I can't get them. So let's talk about why players are upset and why I think this was a bad move on Rare's part. And that is, this game is all about cosmetics. There's no pay to win. There is no I'm better than you because I sunk money in and I have a better blunderbuss. There's no I sunk money in and I have this laser gun that does pew pew damage where yours only has bullets, right? There's none of that. It is all about looks. And sure, some of the cosmetics, some of the sails, some of the weapons, they do have advantages, like the Obsidian pistol, which has an iron sight, but there's the mercenary pistol, and there's other reskinned versions of that which have given iron sights. So at times, yes, some of the cosmetics did give you a competitive advantage, but not really so much anymore with some of the changes they've made. I know there's still some sales out there that they have to adjust from the mistakes they made with the Dark Adventure sales and the cuts and the angles that it has. But it's a game about collecting cosmetics and dressing your character the way that you feel your character best looks or whatever you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's that you have a lore with your character, you're telling a story with your character, you're RPing with your character, or maybe you're just a tuck lord and you want the skinny pirate that's tiny and is all dressed in black. Whatever your reasoning is and whatever your case may be, you have a reason for the way that you have dressed your pirate. Period. End of story. You have selected the look of your pirate for a particular reason. And these weapons are really cool, and Sea of Thieves has never before locked down cosmetics based on the console that you've logged into. Now, they've had the Oreos before with over in Europe, but those were codes and you could get them from folks. They've had Steam cosmetics, but again, if you get it on Steam and you play it, you link your Microsoft account and you have the items on your Xbox as long as your Microsoft. They had the Duke cosmetics, where if you logged into the new Xbox over a period of year, you got the Duke cosmetics. Well, you could do that on your Xbox, and then you had the cosmetics on your PC, or you could just do the Xbox Cloud Gaming and get them on your PC, which is what I did. This is the first time they've been locked down based on platforms, so you don't even see them if you log into another platform. And I kind of have an issue with this just because they've set a precedent over 6 years that the game is about collecting those cosmetics and making your pirate look cool and stuff like that. And now, for me, someone who does very much want those cosmetics, those exclusive PS5 cosmetics, I'm now not going to have the opportunity. It fits perfectly with my pirate. Yes, my pirate is usually green and black all over, and the obsidian stuff fits fine. But there's a part of my pirate that sometimes goes red and black, and those particular reskins look brilliant. And so I would love to have them. I know a few weeks ago I talked to Captain Logan about how wonderful those are and how much I want them. But I'm now not going to have the opportunity. Though I do have a PS5 in my household, I'm not going to be playing on PS5 in order to have that stuff. So I'm curious how some of this stuff is going to be implemented. For example, if I got it on PS5 and I got the stuff and I equip my pirate of that, what happens when I log out and log on to my Xbox or PlayStation? Does it default to the sailor stuff? I don't know. I don't know how they've implemented this. I have no idea. I almost want to pre-order it just in case they screw it up and it's across all. But according to their official post that they made, this is going to be locked down to only players who are playing on the PS5. Only while you're playing on the PS5 will you have access to the exclusive items. So moving away from that, I'm curious now how their pre-orders are going to look. I have a feeling that some people, because this was posted on Twitter, probably don't even know about this right now. They probably don't even know about this official statement because it hasn't been in any of their Sea of Thieves news. It's only been a post on Twitter that some people have retweeted and commented on. And so I'm curious again how people are going to be reacting to this. There are probably going to be people that are very irritated if they've pre-ordered it and they don't know about this, and then they find out that they can only use that on their PlayStation, and they log into their Xbox and their exclusive cosmetics from the PlayStation pre-order aren't there. I think there's going to be a lot of escalation. There's going to be a lot of customer care calls and tickets open on this, and that's kind of a bummer. And I think Rare should have been transparent when they announced these cosmetics, and when they announced that yes, they are exclusive cosmetics to the pre-order, but they will not be available for you to use in any way, shape, or form on the PC or the Xbox. Now, let's talk business-wise why saying that wouldn't have been a good idea. Players in Sea of Thieves want those cosmetics. They will pay money to pre-order on a system that they have no intention of playing long-term on. They just want the cosmetics, which means pre-orders are going to go up and Rare is going to make money. Now with this announcement, I know several people in the Pirate Talk radio community, several people on the Sea of Thieves community, Discord and things like that are canceling their pre-order because they had it pre-ordered because they wanted the cosmetics. Now it's been announced that you can't get them, even though the announcement hasn't been widespread and large, because that affects the bottom line at Rare. Let's be honest. Shady business, but it does affect the bottom line. If someone pre-orders on PlayStation and they're pissed off, well, look, it says right here in the small print with a little star, it's exclusive to PlayStation 5. Well, yeah, but so was the Duke set exclusive to the new Xbox, and that's not exactly how that worked out either. So people are starting to already cancel their pre-orders, and I'm wondering, once this officially comes out, and people realize that they can't play with their new cosmetics, I wonder how many people are going to go back and ask for a refund. I wonder if refunds are even going to be available. I wonder how many tickets and things this is going to cause Rare on the back end, just for not being transparent and announcing it up front. They really should have. Honestly, they really should have. And I think before the beta testing comes up in a week or so, I really think they need to put out a Sea of Thieves news and really explain this and get to the bottom, make sure everyone understands if you're paying us money for this, this is what you can expect. Now, will that again solve all the escalations, all the customer care calls, all the pissed off people? Probably not, because not everyone's watching Sea of Thieves news. Not everyone is on Twitter. But I honestly think Rare needs to be transparent about this and say exactly, without a shadow of a doubt, this is how you get the cosmetics, and this is the way you get. Do they link together or do they not? They really need to come out with this. And yes, they need to understand that pre-orders will be canceled. They need to understand people are going to be asking for a refund. But if you're not going to be transparent with people in a very public fashion, You're setting yourself up for that. And I get it. You want the money. You need the money. You are a business, but you can't be shady about your business and only kind of release it here, release a little thing here. Just be transparent about it. The players out there are smart, and they're going to realize that you screwed them, right? And they're going to be pissed off. And at this time, 6 years in, with all the major issues that you've had with the game and still continue to have, this is not what you need to do. You don't need to keep these things secret. There's no secret about it. The cosmetics are coming out. Stop trying to be all shady and secretive about stuff. Just come out in a post, a video little thing on your Sea of Thieves news. It can be all of a minute and a half or less, and just say, hey, the PlayStation 5 cosmetics, I know there was some confusion around it. Let us roll it down for you. Let us explain it to you. Here's how you get them. Here's how you can use them. It's only on PlayStation. And just lay it out there, right? And just understand that you're going to lose money over it, but you're going to lose money over it either way. It's just, do you want a massive amount of customer care tickets and refund requests, or do you want to handle it now? So how do they be successful? What are things that they need to do to be successful with this PS5 launch? And it has to be a good launch. Sea of Thieves needs to have a good launch here, because this is the Xbox is now putting one of its flagship games out on PlayStation. The partnership that has been sought after for so long in very few games, Minecraft being one of them, have been able to bridge that gap for cross-play type situations. We are now at that period where some of that cross-play between PlayStation and Xbox is happening, and it has to go over well, because Sea of Thieves, like I said, is like a Halo. It is a flagship brand of Microsoft, and this has to go over well, right? It's got to go over well. So number one thing that they have to do, they have to execute the launch and the season 12 patch crisp and clean. It cannot have bugs. It cannot have stability issues. It cannot go days upon days, if not weeks, without fixing major game-breaking issues. It cannot introduce bad game-breaking issues from the past. It must be the crispest and cleanest update that they have ever put out, because that is going to be the first encounter that these PS5 players are having. It's going to be the first encounter. And if they can't log in, if they're crashing, if hit registration is all over the place, if bucket reg is happening, if food reg is happening, if some sort of lag spikes and teleportation is happening, if all of a sudden easy anti-cheat is not doing its job and there's cheaters and hackers everywhere, that is not going to be good. So Rare had better be right now heads down in that keyboard in the QA labs, doing everything humanly possible to make sure this is the best update, cleanest update they have ever done, because they are introducing a lot of stuff. New weapons, right? They're introducing new ways to play. They're introducing a lot of new stuff for this launch of PS5. And I said it in the past, they should have launched PS5 for Season 13 and moved the Season 12 features to Season 13. They should have swapped those two, because Season 13 gives a storyline and gives us a one new boat world event. So if that's kind of screwed up, whatever. It's a new world event, but the game stays solid. Rare has had a history where they cannot execute updates cleanly, and they introduce new bugs, and they bring bugs from the past back and exploits, and they are not quick to fix them. It takes them weeks or months or seasons to get the things fixed as they break other things. This must be the cleanest update they have ever done. And yes, I know they have a beta test coming up. Unfortunately, the beta test is not the season launch. They've had mini tests in the past. They've had insiders testing for years, and still they don't listen to the insiders. Still they push out bad code. They cannot do that on this particular update. They just can't. Or this big momentum shift, which they have right now with the excitement of PlayStation 5 coming in, is going to be for nothing. So that is the number one thing in my mind that they have to nail. This update has to be clean. Now, what are some things that are going on right now that need cleaned up? Let's talk about that. Now, I know some of you out there are going to first say, well, sharks. Sharks clearly are still spawning rapidly, even though they announced it had been resolved. Look, sharks, I don't care. Sharks are sharks. Let them be a feeding frenzy out there. Yes, it's annoying, but who cares? They're sharks. Let's be honest. Just shoot them a couple times, stab them a couple times, juke them. I don't care, but they're sharks. Who cares? So if you're on the boat of making sure sharks are fixed, I'm going to toss you overboard. We're going to keel haul you because that's the least of my concerns. First, crashing. So it was announced in the last update that crashing has been resolved. And though it is much improved, crashing is not resolved in any way, shape, or form. In my play session yesterday, I had 2 crashes. One of the people on my crew had 3 crashes, and one was a really bad crash where he actually had to force quit on his Xbox and like do some crazy network settings and stuff. Crashing is not fixed in any way, shape, or form. It is better, but it is not fixed, and players are still experiencing this. So crashing, it must be fixed in this next update, because nothing is worse than logging into a game that you're excited to play, that you paid money to pre-order, that you're raring to go, and all of a sudden, a few moments in, or maybe an hour and a half in, you crash. And then you got to get back in there. Hopefully your boat hasn't sunk. You know, obviously they broke the resources staying after you get a crash. So your resources, your inventory is gone. It's just a bad experience. So crashing must be resolved before this PS5 launch. It can't get worse. It must be better. And they really have to fix, how do they save the inventory? That was a huge quality of life update that players have been asking for years. It was there for a short period of time, maybe a season, and now it's gone, and now it's broken. And they've got to clean that stuff up. Next, combat. Combat was starting to get to a place where it was starting to feel okay. Now they've got new weapon coming in. They've got new cannonballs coming in now. Cannonballs haven't really been an issue. They've got a new throwable coming in. Throwables haven't really been an issue. But we're talking pirate to pirate combat. And I'm not just saying PvP. I'm talking PvE as well. The sword is starting to fall apart again. Blocking is not working. The stun is not working. Things are going in the reverse direction from a weapon that was in a bad place for years, and in recent updates actually started to feel good, where sword play was actually something that you could do. And now it's getting back to the point where block isn't working, and it's just M1 spam, and it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. Hit registration. Though I think some of the things they've done with hit registration over the year has improved it, but it's still not 100% great. I remember yesterday I was shooting at a Meg and I was getting hit markers, but I can tell you what, I wasn't doing damage to it. The Megs like jerk and stuff when you hit them. I was getting hit markers and I was getting audio cues, but that Meg wasn't jerking. Could have been an issue with the Meg. I've had situations where I shoot a pig with an eye of reach and the pig just keeps running. I got hit markers, shoot a chicken or a snake. So though you get the hit markers and I've got the client side hit detection on my thing turned on, you get the hit markers and the thing just keeps running and the thing just keeps moving. That's a problem. Though I think it's better than what it was, it still has a long way to go. And we have to keep in mind, as Captain Logan mentioned when we did our talk, a couple weeks ago, PlayStation 5 folks expect very clean games, very comprehensive games, and just solid games. And right now, Sea of Thieves is not there. And PlayStation players are not going to accept garbage code. So they really have to clean up the combat in a game that's centered around combat. And then the final one. The final one, and this is specifically because of new players, silent boarding. Now, there's a lot of issues, as we well know, with Sea of Thieves. Silent boarding has been an ongoing struggle for them to get fixed and fixed permanently. They get it fixed for a few weeks or a month, they get it fixed for a season, and then they break it again, and it takes months for them to get back to it. Silent boarding is one of the most frustrating experiences in the game because there's so much amazing audio in this game that you're listening to, from the sails to cannons to gunfire. And if you don't have that audio cue that a player has exited the water and onto your ladder, you're at a huge disadvantage. And yes, you can adjust your point of view and your view distance out to a certain point where, on most ships, you can see both ladders. But by the time they've crested the top, you don't have any reaction time to deal with them. You need to be able to know that they've got on the ladder so you can already start your defense. It's so much better when silent boarding is out of the game because players, both new and veteran, have an equal chance to make sure that a player does not get on their ship to disrupt them. Yes, there are players out there who are completely oblivious, even with the largest splash sound, and you can get on their boat. Hopefully someday they learn. But if you're an average or above player, you're going to hear them getting on your ladder, and you're going to take action, either watching that ladder or moving over to that ladder with a blunderbuss, a sword, or something in order to defend from disruption on your particular boat. And it still exists. And I know some folks out there, you see the streamers, they know it exists because every single time they get close to the ladder, regardless if silent boarding has been patched or not, the blunderbuss comes out in the aim down sights before you touch the ladder, right? Because that's how you activate the silent boarding. Or the sword comes out to a block, and that's how you activate the silent boarding. Even when silent boarding was fixed, players still did that. Why? Just in case it breaks, because we know that silent boarding has been fixed multiple times. I put fixed in the biggest air quotes I can because it's never fully ever truly been fixed because it keeps coming back. They keep breaking it again. So you can't trust that it's going to be fixed. You can't believe that Rare has it fixed because it keeps breaking, right? So that is something I think they need to fix because these are new players. Obviously, they're going to run into people who are boarding. And if you get silent boarded as a new player, you're going to be like, well, what am I supposed to do? I couldn't hear that player coming up. They're in the water on a fast moving ship going by them and they grab the sight. You're going to hear a splash. You're going to hear a sploosh. You're going to hear something. But I don't because they've blocked with their sword or they aim down sights and they've canceled it out due to exploiting. We had an experience about 2 weeks ago on stream where it was probably one of the worst. I ended stream early because it was one of the worst play sessions that I've had in a long time. I know I've been stressed with work and I wasn't really in a sweaty mood, but every single crew I went up against were either blatantly cheating with teleports, they were TDMing where they were not blowing up your ship. They were just spawn camping you and keeping you afloat. They were silent boarding. There was quick swapping and I didn't have a single legit PvP fight where people weren't using quick swap double gun, silent boarding, openly hacking, or TDM spawn camping. It was a miserable play session. And I've heard from countless people that this has been an experience that they've had multiple times over the past couple weeks. And that's a bummer because things like the quick swap, look, if you want a double gun, I have no problem with that. But there's no place for quick swapping. It has been announced as an exploit. It has tried to be fixed, but again, players are going to figure out their way around it. And these are the issues. Like, that's just a horrible experience where someone shoots you basically with 2 bullets before, you get to shoot them and they've shot you with 2 and you're dead. Now, again, the concept is, well, you can just learn how to do it. I don't want to because it's been announced as an exploit. Therefore, it should be happening and Rare should be taking action. I can tell you that those folks are probably, if not right now, on their way to being banned on Xbox and Sea of Thieves because of, TDM spawn camping, not sinking the ship, and double gunning with quick swap. So many violations. It's actually kind of funny because I kept respawning and recording to get more and more info from them actually repairing us, bailing us, making sure that they could basically just TDM and spawn camp. And double gun quick swapping. It's funny. I got all their names. I got all of their names, and I got actions of what they were doing, so I could submit all that evidence to Microsoft and Sea of Thieves. And after I got all my evidence, I just typed in, by the way, these are all bannable offenses. And then the next time I walked through the ferry door, they were actually sinking the ship and trying to move on. So it's quite funny because it was like, oh shit, this person knows that they're bannable offenses. I should probably move on. But at that point, it was too late because I had at least a good 20 minutes around abouts of evidence that, those accounts are gone. Just don't be stupid. Don't be a sleazeball. But that kind of stuff is not good for the game, and it's especially not good when new players are coming into the game because it's not a good experience. So I think those are the real big things that Sea of Thieves needs to focus on in the short remaining time that they have is server stability, patch clean, silent boarding, crashing, which is server stability, and combat. Like, I understand you're introducing all these new weapons and you need to balance them, which is why I don't think season 12 is the appropriate season to launch this stuff, because whenever they add these new weapons and things, they just open up so many issues from the past or introduce new ones. And I just hope that season 12 is a clean launch. I hope that the PlayStation 5 launch is clean, because honestly, after 6 years, Sea of Thieves does need an influx of players. It really, really, truly does. And it needs an influx of players who are going to help maintain this player base for many, many years to come. And I just hope that they understand the gravity of this. I know they know it's a big moment, but I hope they understand the gravity of the situation here where things have got to be clean. Existing and veteran players, they're getting tired of season after season just being disappointed with the quality of the code coming out of Rare. And you can't introduce new players and give them that disappointment right off the bat. Guys, I appreciate your time. I really do. Every single week when I see those numbers pop up from the YouTube video to the folks listening online, I do truly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate each and every one of you spending, very precious time out of your day to listen to me rant and rave and talk about the game that I love. Thank you very much for being a fan. Make sure you are clicking the like, the subscribe, the follow, whatever buttons are out there that you can click. It all does help. And make sure you do go check out the Patreon, patreon.com/DavrimTV. Subscriptions starting as low as $1 a month. You can also go over to check out twitch.tv/Davrim. If you have a Prime sub, you can use it there. Thank you very much, everyone. Remember, streams are going to be very, very sparse until the second week of May. But if you are a patron, you're going to see some behind the scenes looks to show that I am very passionate about and should be very, very fun and very, very cool. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you next time on Pirate Talk Radio.